ESPN is in a lot of hot water with some of their analysts, Rachel Nichols, Maria Taylor, Malika Andrews, and all this. And we're going to talk about it all right after the bumper. What's happening, everybody? Jeff Lightsey Jr. here with the Black Boss Channel and Victory Formation. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and the notification bell because we upload every single day. Now, leave your thoughts in the chat if you know anything. First of all, put your B1s, hashtag B1s in the chat, hashtag B1s in the chat, and let me know what city that you are coming from, and let us know that you tapped in with us at the Black Boss Channel right now. Before we get started, so the ESPN has a little conundrum on their hands because this is what happens when these big white companies play the erase card. They upset the apple cart and piss a lot of people off, and that includes ESPN, and that goes to Rachel Nichols, and it depends on what side of the fence. I don't really care, honestly. We're just going to dive into all of it. Why Rachel Nichols exuded white privilege during her rant against Maria Taylor, and why ESPN, a lot of people are the main culprits for doing some race baiting and pissing a lot of people off, both black and white, all in the same pot. We're all in the same potluck. Okay, so for those who don't know, Rachel Nichols is a seasoned reporter, seasoned anchor at ESPN. I think she's been at ESPN probably almost 20 years. I think she really started at ESPN real heavy when LeBron James got drafted. So that was 2003. We're in 21. So that's like 18 years. She's been there for a very, very long time. And so Rachel Nichols has been a seasoned veteran at ESPN. And so last season during the bubble, when the NBA came back from the bubble, Rachel Nichols, who has been the host of like NBA finals coverage for ESPN for a few years, they asked her, they said, hey, Rachel, how about you move from the booth covering the finals, and we're going to move you to be a sideline reporter. You're going to take Doris Burke's job. And we're going to give Maria Taylor, who was the young, up-and-coming black season reporter, we're going to give her the host job. And Rachel was pissed off because she felt that ESPN only moved her to the sideline and Maria into the booth because it was the right thing to do. Think about it. This happened during last July. So right after the George Floyd riots, we're in the middle of the global pandemic. We got Black Lives Matter on the NBA courts. We have Amazon, Hulu, Google, whoever doing all their versions of like Black Lives Matter, making all their signs and campaigns and doing all this stuff. And so ESPN's trying to get in on the action. And so they say, okay, how about we take our most talented black reporter and put her as the face of the NBA Finals, as the lead host of the NBA Finals. And Rachel peeped game. Like, I ain't gonna lie, Rachel peeped game. And that pissed her off. And so she voiced her expression, she voiced her frustration, she voiced the fact that her job was being changed, all because ESPN wanted to use a black face, right? Like ESPN wanted to use a black person, Maria Taylor, who was a very talented at her job, by the way. It's not like it's just it's given and not earned. Like she's actually really, really good. But Rachel let her white privilege seep through. Now, in a conversation between Rachel and an associate of LeBron James, he's actually an associate of LeBron James, who also happens to be white. Rachel told the story about how ESPN is trying to have a black face for the face of the finals, and how it pissed her off, and how she wasn't going to be a part of it, right? But during this conversation, Rachel demeaned Maria Taylor, whether knowingly or not. She undermined Maria Taylor and the work that Maria has done and the work that Maria has put in, and made it seem like Maria's only getting this job because ESPN wants a black face. Now, for those of you just joining, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Let me know where you're coming from and leave your thoughts in the chat. Let me know where you're coming from. Put your B1s in the chat and let me know where you're coming from over in the chat. So here is the problem with all of this, right? Here is why we're talking about this. Here is why we always emphasize building your own, doing for self, and all of these things. It's because things like this, even the closest of close white people, the ones who are steadfast, strong, and mighty, are still white people. No offense. This is not demeaning white people. I think Rachel Nichols might be a beautiful lady, but she's still a white woman. And even when Maria Taylor, someone she was bragging on, someone she thought does a wonderful job, the first time things get shaken up and the apple cart gets upset, that white privilege came out of Rachel Nichols. It came out. It came out during that rant. Now, granted, she didn't know she was being recorded. And there's maybe some things me and you would like to not be heard, you know what I'm saying, in the privacy of ourselves, the privacy of a conversation with whoever. Maybe we don't want to be recorded. She was recorded, and it sounds like unwillingly, by from what I understand, a black woman who also works at ESPN. When Rachel was having this conversation, I guess off air with the associate of LeBron James, a black woman who works at ESPN actually recorded the conversation. And so she took the conversation and sent it to Maria. Now, this happened in 2020. This happened like a year ago during the NBA Finals. And now it's just all coming out. And now there's a lot of question marks over at ESPN, mainly because they did what every other white company did during the 2020, during the summer of 2020. They tried to make it seem like, oh, we've always loved black people. We're getting rid of Aunt Jemima. We're getting rid of Uncle Ben, even though these things have been staple in our grocery stores for 50 to 100 years. We're getting rid of this. We love black people. We've always loved black people. And then it came back to bite them in the butt. And as soon as Rachel Nichols, I mean, you know, say what you want about her, whether you're Steven Jackson or Jason Whitlock or whoever's trying to defend her, her white privilege came out in that moment. Whether she knew what she was recorded or not, it definitely came out. And now she had to come out and apologize. She had to come out and apologize to Maria Taylor because she understood, like, yeah, I can give her all of these compliments all I want. But if I'm saying you only got the job because of George Floyd's death on camera and because what was taking place in the summer of 2020, then I'm undermining your work. I'm undermining your value. Because if Rachel was the up-and-coming journalist at the time and they replaced the Maria with Rachel, right? She wouldn't be saying it was because of no protest or anything like that. But see, this also goes into the fact that a lot of people believe that ESPN does these race baiting things. See, ESPN is more of a liberal run company. For those who don't know, ESPN is owned by Disney, which also owns ABC. And these are what we would consider more liberal wing, left wing style Democrats that run the company. So they allow a lot of democratic, thoughts and ideas to intertwine with their coverage of sports. Now, granted, it is sports, but they do a lot of left-leaning things. And when employers or anyone that works for them tends to be more on the right wing or tends to, attack the left wing at any moment, you see ESPN step up. You see them suspend guys. Guys like Jason Whitlock got out of there. He was more of a right winger. He's a Trump guy. He is a Republican, I think, on surface. Sage Steele, someone who has been suspended before for some of the comments that she has made, and she's more of along the right wing. But Sage Steele is in a whole class of her own ignorance at times. So that is what it is. But we've seen this before from ESPN. And so being a more of a left wing or liberal based organization or TV show or whatever, then you tend to do a lot of what the liberals do in politics. And what do a lot of the liberals do in politics? They get a black face to represent them, although the puppet master is the big white dude in the back. Yeah, it might be a black person out there telling you what to do or telling you what to say, a Mark Lamont Hill, a Don Lemon, or whatever, but it's a white man that's running the company at the end of the day. It's a white man that has the last say. It's a white man that gets to, that signs the checks, right? So that is what happens at ESPN. And so in this case, Rachel peeped game. I'm not going to act like she didn't. She peeped game. She realized that, yes, they are a left-wing company. And so while the George Floyd protests were taking place all across the country, while buildings were being burned, while people were marching on the streets, while the NBA was coming back and putting Black Lives Matter and allowing players to take a knee during the anthem and putting these messages on the back of their jersey and all of this stuff, all of this symbolic, all of these symbolic gestures, no cash were exchanging hands and no real legislation was being passed and no real action was taking place, but there was a lot of symbolism. ESPN saw it as an opportunity to also engage in their own form of symbolism. And that was placing Maria Taylor, their biggest, brightest, young, up-and-coming woman, black woman reporter, the biggest, baddest, best black woman reporter, put her at the face of their number one entity, especially at that time. The number one entity, because remember, sports stopped. We got to put things into context, guys. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Sports were gone for 4 months. From March of 2020 to July of 2020, there were 0 sports games. 0, nada, nilch, none. And so the first sporting event to come back to television was the NBA playoffs. Was the NBA, rather. Let me just say the NBA. And the biggest, baddest event in the NBA is what? The NBA playoffs and the NBA finals. And so ESPN decided to swap Rachel out for Maria Taylor because they wanted to do what? Have a form of symbolism. They wanted symbolism, guys. They wanted to show that, hey, we're ESPN and we love black people too. Except when you get too black. But as long as you're black enough on certain issues, we can go. And so Maria Taylor is black. She's a woman. Hell, throw her in the playoff coverage. Rachel, you'll move you to the sideline. And Rachel didn't want to be a part of it. And Rachel let her white privilege show when she went on a rant. Although she was recorded. I will give her the benefit of the doubt. She was recorded and she didn't know she was being recorded. But she definitely let her white privilege show. She definitely let her white privilege show. And so I'm saying this to say that, to say what? Like, Jeff, what are you getting at? So yeah, why this is important. It's important because at the end of the day, if you don't create your own way, if you don't eventually break off from the corporate plantation, then you are a slave to said master. Whether the master is ESPN, Ford Motor Company, your job, wherever you're at, you have to answer to them. You have to do whatever they say. You have to make them, when they say jump, you have to say how high. You are a slave to the work. And so although Rachel was upset that her job was being altered, her job was being changed, that's what she signed up for. That's what you get. And in most cases, people for ESPN, if you want to work, especially for a company like ESPN, you need to be like Stephen A. Smith. And what does that mean? Stephen A. Smith, I'm going to show you guys because I didn't think it was real. So Tariq Nasheed went on Instagram and posted this quote allegedly from Stephen A. Smith. And Stephen A. Smith said, he said, when I wake up every morning, the first thought on my mind is how do I get my bosses richer? Stephen A. Smith, the best employee at ESPN, maybe in ESPN history. He said, when I wake up, the first thought on my mind every morning is how do I make my bosses richer? Not how do I improve my community, not how do I, fight for, reparations, not to help the black, eliminate the racial black wealth gap. His first thought, I swear to God, I'm not making this up. I'm about to share my screen because I swear to you, I'm not lying. This is no BS. I don't want to show the actual video because we don't want to get demonetized. But this is what he said. Stephen A. Smith. This is from Stephen A. Smith. That's his verified Twitter account. It says, I wake up every morning with 2 thoughts on my mind. Number 1, how do I make my bosses more money? And 2, how do I get some of it? I swear to God, I'm not making this up, guys. I'm about to take my banner down because I want to make sure you're seeing this. And I want to see your thoughts in the chat. What are your thoughts in the chat over Stephen A. Smith's comments? Let's read it together one more time. He says, I wake up every morning with 2 thoughts. 1, how do I make my bosses more money? And 2, how do I get some of it? For those of you in the chat that tuned in, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave your thoughts in the chat. What do you think about this statement? What do you think about this statement from ESPN's number 1 employee, Mr. Stephen A. Smith? I wake up every morning with 2 thoughts. 1, how do I make my bosses more money? And number 2, how do I get some of it? Someone said if that isn't plantation rhetoric, absolutely. It absolutely is plantation rhetoric. Because think about this. I'm just about to throw some basic numbers out here, and we're talking about Stephen A. Smith. We're talking about, Rachel Nichols, Maria Taylor, all of it, but it all pertains to you. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. The reason why that bothers me is because Stephen A. Smith gets paid anywhere between $10 to $12 million per year from ESPN. He gets paid between $10 to $12 million every year from ESPN. And with that money, he is probably their highest paid employee. I'm not for sure. You can fact check it, but he's right up there. If he's not number one, he's number 1A. Like, he's number two. Like, he's right up there. And so think about this. If ESPN is willing to pay Stephen A. Smith 10 to 12, maybe even more, $1 million per year, what is Stephen A. Smith actually worth? Like, think about this, guys. What is Stephen A. Smith actually worth? If they found him so valuable that they can pay him $10 to $12 million per year, think about what he's actually worth. Probably what, $100 million a year? What could Stephen A. Smith do if he broke away from ESPN? What could he do? Like you guys let me know. You guys tune in all the time. You guys watch ESPN. We watch sports. We watch basketball. We understand what he means to that company. What could he do if he left that company? Let's just do some basic math, right? He gets 10 to 12 million, somewhere between there, maybe more, maybe 15. I don't know. Say First Take gets 3 million viewers a day, and they're on 5 days a week. So it's 3 million times 5, it's 15. It's 52 weeks in a year. 15 times 52, I'm not a math person. I'm not Doc right here. I got to pull out a calculator. 15 times 52, that's 780 million viewers a year. And that's just like average. Say if you get $1 per viewer, we're looking at almost 800 million just off First Take alone. If you get $1 per viewer, it's 780 million. If you get 2 per viewer, 2 per household or whatever, that's, I mean, come on, we're talking over $1 billion. And all Stephen A. Smith is thinking about is, I wake up every morning with 2 thoughts. Number 1, how do I make my bosses more money? And number 2, how do I get some of it? Those are his thoughts. Guys, I don't know, man. I just feel like we were past that. I thought as a team, as a race, as a people, we understood that is not the end goal. I thought our end goal every day should be, how do I make myself better? How do I make my family better? How do I make my community better? How do I close the racial wealth gap? How do I spread knowledge? How do I, if I make this much money, how do I make sure my brother makes just as much or right there with me? How am I able to employ a number of Black people, get them jobs or put money in their pockets? Because everybody doesn't want to be a boss, right? Like, I get it. Everybody doesn't want to be a boss. So some people are cool with working a job, and that's fine. But the end goal needs to be to put your family and put your family and friends and the people around you in a better position than they were. That should be the end goal, not to go up and say, hey, boss, how's it going? How do I make you more money, boss? I mean, come on, especially when your boss is the white liberal media. I mean, you can say, oh, it's better than the conservative media, white conservative media, but they're one and the same. They're actually one and the same. And a lot of views, a lot of you grew up with more conservative views. So, we got away from the point. We were talking about Rachel Nichols and Maria Taylor and ESPN and the race baiting, some of the race baiting that's taking place over in ESPN. And it has been taking place for a long time. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, guys. Thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. And the race baiting and some of the liberal politics that have taken place at ESPN is why a lot of their best people have left. Like, if you think about some of the best employees that ESPN has had over the 20 years, I've been alive 25 years, that they've had, whether it's Chris Broussard or Rob Parker or even a guy like Skip Bayless, all these guys have left. And they actually all went to Fox. Colin Cowherd, they all went to Fox. Why? Because they felt like ESPN was playing politics too much. They were too busy trying to be friends with all the politicians. But when you own a news company and when you're also in bed with the liberal media, that's what takes place. all the things get convoluted. And it's the same thing that happened in this Rachel Nichols, Maria Taylor thing. And so now the end all be all, what ended up happening to Rachel Nichols is, I almost forgot to tell you guys, what ended up happening to Rachel Nichols was she was going to be once again the sideline reporter for the NBA Finals this year. Then all the audio leaked out about her being upset with the race baiting essentially taking place at ESPN. And so now they have removed her from the sidelines and promoted another black woman by the name of Malika Andrews. And so what this does is, it's a couple of things that this does, right? Malika, and once again, Malika is well-deserved of the job. Malika is good. Like, Malika's like the same age as me, and she is like 10,000 times better than what I do. Like, Malika is a beast. Like, she is really, really freaking good. But what you run into though, and this is what I mean by the whole race baiting thing, is that in some people's mind, I'm not going to say all, but some people's mind, you're only promoting the black women because of the backlash that you're getting. You're not promoting the black women because they're actually talented. And see, these are the concepts and these are the problems that you will run into when you've had a history of race baiting. When you had a history of trying to put opposite views against each other. When you have a history of removing people who are free thinkers. Removing people who don't think like Stephen A. Smith. How do I get my bosses richer? If you don't think like Stephen A. Smith and you work for ESPN, you're probably not going to last last very long. If you don't keep your head on the straight and narrow, you're not going to last too long at ESPN. Let's just be honest. If you don't have that mindset, the two things I wake up, how do I get my bosses more money and how do I get some of it? I mean, like, that man said, oh, looked like we were out for a little bit, but yes. So that is the thought. If you work for ESPN and you don't have the same thought process as Stephen A. Smith, you're probably not going to last very long. And that's incredible. So now ESPN is in a pickle. They're in a conundrum. And these are the challenges they're going to face. These are the challenges that are going to take place. These are the challenges they're going to continue to have. And these are the challenges, and these are the things we're trying to fight, people. Black people, intelligent black people that are here with me today. These are the challenges that we are fighting. We are fighting against the mindsets, no offense to Stephen A., but of the Stephen A. Smiths. We ain't trying to get our bosses more money. We're trying to be some bosses. And we're trying to get our family more money. We're trying to close the racial wealth gap. We're trying to make our people be more intelligent. That's what we're trying to do. We're not waking up thinking, how do I make my bosses more money? No, that's the slave mentality. That is a corporate plantation slave mentality, and we're leaving that shit in the past. That's gone. We ain't doing that no more. We did that for 50, 60 years since the Civil Rights Bill was signed back in the 60s. We ain't doing that no more. You know what I'm saying? When people were literally getting spit on and milkshakes thrown on them and slapped and beat up just so they could sit at a white counter, nah, screw that. We're getting away from that shit. We're no longer in that mentality. We're no longer going to allow companies to control us like that. We're no longer going to be a slave to our bosses. And part of that is becoming economically independent, whether that's playing in the stock market, whether that's starting your own business, whether that's doing a couple side hustles. That way you can break away from that mindset. Because the thing about Stephen A. Smith and the thing about ESPN, the thing about all of that, about Steve, if Stephen A. Smith makes one wrong turn, makes one slip up, they're not going to be as nice to him as they were to Rachel Nichols. I can promise you that. And so if Stephen A. Smith gets fired from ESPN, if a controversy comes up and he happens to get fired, all of that stuff that he does, he don't get to take First Take with him. He don't get to take Stephen A.'s World with him. He don't get to take Max Kellerman and Molly Quorum and all these people with him. He has to start all over and get it out the mud by himself because ESPN owns all of that. And so that's the problem with trying to get your bosses more money. Because at the drop of a dime, your bosses can get rid of you. If something happens to Stephen A., whether he gets sick or whatever, his bosses will replace him in a heartbeat. His bosses will replace him in a heartbeat. His bosses will replace him in a heartbeat. And that's why we're getting the hell away from that dumbass mindset, that slave ship, woe is me mindset. How do I wake up and get my bosses more money? We're no longer thinking like that. We're thinking like intelligent, independent black people. And that's the move. And there's so many ways to become economically free. There's so many ways. There's no excuse. The internet is free. There are courses that will teach you more about wealth building, whether it's here in the Black Business School or any other place, that'll teach you more about making money and more about wealth building for a fraction of the cost of a college degree. Trust me, I know. I've done both. For a fraction of the cost. It costs 10, 20 grand a semester to go to a university. Some of these courses are 30 bucks, 40 bucks, 100 bucks. A fraction of the cost. And that'll teach you how to be economically free. That way you don't have to wake up with the mindset of, how do I get my bosses more money and how do I get some of it? Because we're leaving that in the past. Once again, I'm Jeff Lightsey Jr. at the Black Boss Channel with Victory Formation. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button on your way out. And if you want to see more from me, follow me on Twitter at JLightsey7. I post content on there all the time. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We had a great crowd that came in. It was real heavy in here talking about this discussion. I'll see you next time. Peace.